Hi, I'm Kelsey Dundon, and this is The Waited, a podcast about creativity amidst chaos. Today, I'm talking with Jasmine Sealy, a brilliant writer and the author of The Island of Forgetting, one of my favorite books I've read recently. We talk about how much she loves romance novels and book clubs and how much she hates crafting, of all things. Plus, we get into the literary merit of Heated Rivalry. So I, as you know, as I mentioned to you many times, am a copywriter, like 20 years. Have been doing all sorts of professional writing. Only now have started fiction because I've always loved it. I've always wanted to do it, but I thought that I would hate sitting in a room by myself because I really like the social component of collaborating with designers and art directors and clients and you name it. But I finally stuffed it up, buttercup, and wrote a book. And so this summer, as I was starting to figure out how on earth to get an agent, my sister, Larissa, who you famous very well, the famous Larissa, who is such a connector, was like, I'll bet you Jasmine will talk to you. And I was like, oh, like, please, will you? Like, I'm like, so, because I didn't do an MSA. I have one writer friend in Toronto who I'm constantly bugging with questions, asking for advice, but I don't have a community of writers. And so I was so grateful for you jumping on the phone with me and sharing all of your wisdom and experience. And also, why I was extra excited to talk to you for this podcast first was that, as I was like, because you and I, we spent a lot of time talking also about what it's like to be parents of small children while also trying to do creative work. And it was like, I think there's something here because I love these stories. I love hearing how the other people are doing the things they're trying to do while also dealing with the things that they have to do. And so I was like, I kind of want to do a Substack or a podcast or something. And you were like, I would listen to the shit out of that. I remember you saying, but Jasmine, I didn't tell you this at the time, but I was like, oh, I really, really, really want you to be on it. So thank you.
Hey. I was thinking back to that first phone call that we had, and I think I was like talking to you from my car parked on the side of the road because that was the only place where I was like, I can get some uninterrupted time to have this conversation. And I was on my way somewhere and I was, driving. I was like, so I was like, I'll slot this phone call in on the drive and I'll pull over because it'll be like more peaceful. So if that's not like a metaphor.
I know. For all of it, then I don't know what it is. Because you have two young kids, one preschool, one kindergarten, right? Like they're very, very, very young.
Yeah, not even in preschool, like just two. Like he's just turned 2 a couple months ago. So he's still with a nanny a couple of hours a day, the little one. And then the big one just started kindergarten. It's a little.
Yeah. Little.
I mean, your youngest is little too.
Yeah, she's 4.5, and my eldest is 12. So I'm really like spanning. And I've got a 10-year-old also. So I'm really I feel like I'm spanning a full decade. Like it's obviously it's a lot. Yeah, it's wild seeing how things have changed from when my 12-year-old was little to how things are now and how I've changed also because my oldest was 6. My middle one was 4 when I started to think like, hey, I maybe want to do fiction. And then I was writing this thing as I was pregnant with my third, and I would get up so early in the morning, and sometimes I would be so sick that I was just like, I would look back on those chapters and be like, ooh, I really wasn't feeling well, but I would still like just be plowing through and like desperately trying to get those 1,000 words in. But can we start with the story of your wins? And the edition that I have does not have the beautiful like Amazon award that some of the other versions done. But that's okay. It is beautiful. It is flawless. It is bright and pink and so sunny on a day like today. But I was reading the afterword where you mentioned only one of your babies. Because, like, tell me the story of how, because you started this. It was
the other one didn't exist yet.
Yeah. And it was a short story for your MFA, right? That you were, was the genesis of it. So can you
the origin story of the novel. Sure. So, so I was doing the MFA at UBC. I had no kids. I was just like a full-time grad student, like working at UBC, doing like as a teaching assistant and working at the literary magazine there, Prism, and doing like some other admin work for one of the professors to like make some money, like data entry stuff, and taking classes and writing. That's like what I was doing, which just now to think about that is like, I literally can't imagine. Like, I would go to a coffee shop for like 6 hours and just, maybe write 500 words in there and like talk to friends. Like, all my friends were in the program, so we were talking about writing all the time, and we were reading each other's work and recommending books to each other. And so it was just this really amazing, kind of immersive, generative environment that I was in for 3 years, because I took 2 years of classes and then I took an extra year to write my thesis. So I've been in the program and I'm writing a lot of short fiction because that was all I wrote at the time. And I was in a fiction workshop with Alix Ohlin, who in the group chat that I love because she's going to be interviewing George Saunders. We're going to go see her interview George Saunders. She's an amazing, amazing fiction author and instructor at UBC who I like adore. And I was in her fiction workshop and we had to write a short story, and I wrote a short story that was basically inspired by this relationship between Calypso and Odysseus in the Odyssey. But it was kind of a retelling from the point of view of Calypso, imagining her as this like young Caribbean woman. And it was just a short story. It was maybe 5,000 words-ish, 4,000 or 5,000 words per standard short story length.
Yeah, compared to a novel, which is, what is it, like 90,000?
Yeah. And but it incorporated basically what ends up being her section of the novel, because the novel is split into 3 parts and it's told from 3 different narrators, and Calypso kind of narrates the big chunk in the middle. And the arc that remained pretty unchanged from the short story. Like, what happened in the short story is pretty much what happens in the novel. I just expanded it out. So it almost became like a little like, like a treatment, like what they say in film, like for what would become the novel. And the feedback in class, because in the MFA, it's a workshop environment. So you read each other's work and give feedback. That's how the class is structured. The feedback in the class was basically like, oh, this is a short story. Like, there's so much here. Like, you could, because I had already kind of hinted at the threads of the ancestors and the threads of the descendants with the son. Like, the story ends with her baby being born, just the way it does in the novel. And at the same time that was going on, I needed a thesis topic, because to graduate from the MFA, you need to write like a book-length project of some sort. It can be a poetry collection, it can be a screenplay, it can be a novel, it can be a collection of short stories, whatever you want. But you have to, in order to graduate, you have to I think you have to get like 40,000 words in or something to graduate. And I didn't have an idea for what I was going to do. And we were down, like, at this point, it was like my second to last semester of my 2 years. Like, and a lot of people graduate at 2 years. And so most people are working on their theses from like before they even start the program. Like, it's projects that they kind of brought with them to the MFA. Right. Whereas I was like, I don't even know what I want to do. I was like, maybe I can pull together a few short stories that I've written over the years and write a few more and just, publish a collection or, submit a collection for graduation. I didn't know what I was going to do. And so when I heard that feedback in class, I was kind of like, well, cool, bet. Like, and I'll write a novel, And I remember actually I had a one-on-one meeting with Alix in her office, and I was basically like, do you think this could be a novel? And she was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, okay, if you think it can, which I always like telling that story, because I think it's a really good example of how you need like yes people in your life. Like, you need the people who are like willing to say like, yes, you can do that. Yes, that can be a novel. Like, how important that is, especially as like teachers and mentors, to just not be like to not be gatekeepers, to, you know, like tell people, yes, absolutely, you can. If they go and do it, great. If they don't do it, then great. But it's not on you to be the person to say, oh, I don't think so, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And so was Alix Ohlin one of those people for you? Like, has she been a mentor
100%.
for you?
Not so much, because I haven't gotten to work with her as much as I would like. She wasn't my thesis advisor, so she wasn't the person that I worked with. But just in that moment, she was somebody who I looked up to so much. So had she said in that moment, I don't know if there's enough there, I don't know if I would have had the confidence to continue. So I remember it as a real kind of crucial moment. She probably doesn't even remember this meeting. Which is, you know.
That is, so for me, one of my mentors, who's a copywriter who I was basically apprenticing under. I was working with him like for probably 15 years as a junior writer. And he was so great always at presentations and in client meetings. And one of the things that he said, which he probably does not even remember saying, but that I have on every presentation or pitch that I've ever done on, was he said, transfer your enthusiasm. And so it has shaped everything I have ever done since. And there's no chance he would even remember saying those words. So it's so funny how those small moments, you don't even necessarily, as a mentor, I would assume, realize how pivotal they are.
And that's something that now that I'm starting to teach more in creative writing, and like I teach at UBC sometimes, and I've taught at the VPL. You came to one of my classes, and I have people come up to me afterwards and they ask me for career advice. And I'm not talking like, oh, I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's ass or anything, or trying to like, you know, tell, of course you can publish a book. It's so easy. Anyone can do it. No, I say honestly, it's really hard. And it's, you know, statistically, it's quite unlikely. But of course you can. If you want to, and you have the work ethic and you are willing to do it, you can do it. And I just think we have to be so careful with like what we say to people, because yeah, you don't know what impact you can have with one kind of careless, you know, remark, or the other way around, how positive an impact you can have by just kind of giving the right piece of advice at the right time. So yeah, so that was just like a really simple yes that meant a lot. So I went, that was the fall semester. So I probably had that meeting with her towards the end of the fall semester. And then I would have gone on break over December. And then I was doing a different fiction class with a different instructor in January. So I said, okay, what I'll do is over the break, I'll write another short story from the point of view of another character in the novel and submit it in that class and see basically if there's anything there. So that's what I did. I went home over the break and I wrote this from, I think I did maybe Atlas next, who's Calypso's father. So I went back in time, kind of imagined her origin story from the point of view of her dad. And I workshopped that. And then, yeah, that semester ended. And then basically that was the 2 years of my MFA done. And so I decided to take a whole third year where I would just basically be working on the thesis and teaching and you know, doing like other work on the side. And just kind of hacked away at it. And then, so yeah, that's what I did. And then I'm trying to timing wise, like how I did that. So, right. So the semester would have ended in like April or May. I would have been like tinkering and kind of like working on it over the summer. And then I got pregnant in like October. And then I had terrible morning sickness, like for that first trimester. I was like you were saying, so sick. So I remember having to email my thesis supervisor and just being like, you're not going to hear an update from me for a couple of months because I can't even look at a screen. Like I felt like every time I just felt like I was on a boat in the high seas, like on and off, horrible. So I had to kind of like pause, but then my thesis was due then like that next March and we were in October and I basically then didn't write till the end of my first trimester in December. So then I had like 3 months, December to March. So this is December 2019 to March 2020 to basically bang out the rest of the draft. I don't know if it was just like second trimester energy or like knowing that I had that deadline, I just had to kind of get it done. And then also just, the privilege of like not having kids yet, not having like any caregiver responsibilities. Like I just like churned it out. And
I'll bet you also all the work that you had been doing previous really prepped you for it.
I think so.
Like you were in the zone. You were.
Yeah. And that's something that I'm trying to kind of remind myself now, like as I'm trying to work on a second novel, that the pre-writing, the thinking, the gestation period is like so important, because then when you actually do sit down to write, you've done all that work. Because I think that's 100% true. So so I submitted my thesis in March, which was basically like a very, very rough draft of the novel. Got back some notes from my thesis, like her recommendations and stuff. And then again, a deadline. I love a good deadline.
Me too.
You love a good, wish I had one right now, honestly. But so the other deadline that was then coming up. Yeah, we said, honestly, we'll talk. Cause if I knew Kelsey was waiting for something, I'd be like, oh God, I gotta write.
There you go.
But yeah, so the other deadline that was approaching then was the UBC HarperCollins Prize deadline. So basically the UBC MFA program.
At the University of British Columbia.
It's the University of British Columbia for our American listeners.
Our international audience.
The University of British Columbia, which has a Master's of Fine Arts and Creative Writing program that I did. They partner with HarperCollins Canada, which is a large publishing house here in Canada. It's the Canadian imprint of HarperCollins, which is like a big international publishing house. And they partner with that publishing house every 2 years. And anyone who is currently enrolled in the MFA or has completed the MFA can submit an unpublished manuscript to this contest. And if you win, you get an agency agreement with Cook McDermott and a book deal with HarperCollins Canada. And so the deadline for that was May. So again, I was like, I've got this rough draft. I've got these notes from my editor. I've got 2 months. I think it was at the end of May. So I had like maybe 2.5, 3 months. Plus my baby was due in June. So I was like, why not just like polish this draft as best as I can, submit it to the prize. If I don't win, at least it gets it in front of all these like industry people and gets my name out there. And then I can always keep working on it and resubmit it to agents and stuff down the road. But it's just like something to kind of work towards to get it out there. And it just gets kind of me as far along in this process as I can before the baby comes. And so I submitted it, not really thinking that anything would come of it. It was just kind of to get myself, like I said, to kind of get a foot in the door. And then I won. So that's how I got my books.
I know, but you also, wasn't your agent like, didn't your agent reach out and also say, even if you don't get picked, I still want to represent you? Like, didn't you?
Yeah.
So
I think at that point, she probably knew that I was like shortlisted.
Okay.
And I think, I'm guessing she probably knew. But either way, I think, so no matter what, I would have come out of it with an offer for an agency. But then I ended up, getting the book deal as well, which was great. So I kind of got to just bypass this whole querying process that you've been in, which is like trenches of querying. I don't know what that's like, because I just took this weird little shortcut.
I know.
Got an agent and a book deal from this prize. So it's always quite funny to me when people come to me for a publishing advice, and they're like, "How getting an agent? How do you query? How do you do this?" And I'm like, my path was so unorthodox. I'm almost a bit useless when it comes to that kind of advice. I can talk to you about the publishing process post book deal and like what that's like, but the getting the deal, I just had this very strange kind of direct route that happened to me. So I got this deal. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I'm so grateful that it happened that way.
Yeah.
And I got a signed editor at HarperCollins. But at this point, obviously, I had a newborn.
Right.
So I kind of said to my editor, give me a couple months till I get out of this newborn phase. We were also in the middle of COVID. It's the pandemic. So it was 2020.
Oh, because this was 2020. Oh, wow.
2020, yeah. But I got the book deal. And they weren't planning to release the book until 2022. So we had some time. I think they were getting long. I mean, it's always kind of a year and a half-ish between when you get your book deal and release for like literary fiction. And I think they were doing slightly longer because there was like a lot of delays in printing. So they wanted to make sure that they could actually like print their whole catalog. So we had some time, and me and my editor really like went to town on the edits. Like the draft changed significantly in the editing phase post book deal, which is, I think, also kind of, I don't know how unusual it is. I think some people, they polish up their manuscript so well before submitting that it doesn't require extensive edits. But mine was like, it was polished in the sense that stylistically the prose was well written, but structurally it was kind of a mess.
Oh, interesting. Because
we
had the different because you had the different point of view. Is that why you think? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the first things my editor said to me was, "This isn't a novel. This is 4 short stories, and we need to make it a novel." And I was like, "Well, what? Read me to fill." No. Very blunt, but oh my God, I love her so much. She like Janice Zawerbny is her name, and she absolutely just whipped the book into shape. And then also they wanted to shorten it because it was 100 words.
130,000.
One day whipped to get it down to around 80, which is pretty standard length for a literary fiction debut. And there's weird rules. If it goes beyond a certain length, they have to charge more for the book.
Oh,
so they like books to be under a certain number of pages so that they don't have to charge like a higher ticket like book price, because then they don't sell as well.
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
So so you mentioned the workshop that you taught at the VPL, the Vancouver Library, in the summer, which I attended, and it was called Writing the Erotic. And there is no way I would have ever had the balls to go and attend something like that had I not had you as the instructor, because it just is so outside of my wheelhouse. And I had an epiphany while I was in your workshop because of one of the exercises that you had everyone do. Like, I've never even done a workshop like that where we show up with our laptops and we're actually like doing exercises while we're there. It was so wild to be on many different levels. And so I had the exact same thing. I had 2 completely different characters who were functioning very differently in my book. And then in your workshop, I was like, what am I doing? This should be one person. And so, and so that, I think, added, I mean, I will tell you more once I actually have a book in 2 years, a year and a half, whatever it is, to actually physically talk about. But it added such a whole other level of depth, I hope, anyway, to it.
Great.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say you added a bunch of sex to your book.
So I did that. But you know why? Partly you and your advice and your wisdom, which I think you actually, I know you're talking about not doing Substack, but I feel like you really, really should, because everything that you had in that workshop needs to be out in the world in a bigger way, I think. But also because my book club, which we've been doing for 10 years, which you have now joined, which is the biggest book club that a gallery could ever get.
Oh my gosh. No, I feel like I weaseled my way into this book club.
It's pre-approved. You were always in. And so it's basically a separate club. Like, we have a book that some people read sometimes, and sometimes we're talking about books on the chats, but mostly we're talking about like Nicole Kidman prestige series, or like what HBO is putting out. And we're, talking about the Housewives, and you name it. But the one book, and this predates you joining our book club, but the one book that I think everybody read, and there's 40 of us in this book club now, and we actually talked about on our group chats and at our dinner, was All Fours by Miranda July, because of all the sex in it. And also it's obviously just a beautifully written piece of literature that speaks to ladies of a certain age. But that was what made me realize that, hey, people actually come alive when this is going on. So between you and Miranda in July, I did add it to my book. And Hope my parents never read it. So I am starting to work on my next book, which is wild because I'm trying to remember how you even invent people, because I feel like my characters, my imaginary friends, they're so real to me now that I can't even remember what it was like inventing them. And I can't.
Yeah.
I'm trying now to figure out what it's like to create new one. So where are you? Like, what are you working on now? You've got these two very young kids. One of them's just starting kindergarten, like, which is a big beginning of sorts. And
Totally.
you've got this
I'm in the same boat as you, like trying to figure out how to do it, trying to figure out how to create something from nothing and pulling these, just like kind of creating this whole world from scratch. I'm suspecting that it's going to feel like this every time I start a new book. And that's what I've been told by writers, is that it doesn't really get easier. You don't figure out some sort of life hack for writing. Every time you're kind of back to the drawing board, like, how the hell do I do this again? Yeah, at least that's been the experience for me with the second one, if even probably more so than with the first, because like I said, with writing my first novel, I was so immersed in that creative environment as a full-time grad student at UBC. I was writing also in a lot of different genres because it's a cross-genre program. So I was doing screenwriting and I was writing poetry, and I was just generating all the time. So that muscle was just like a well-oiled, like, that writing muscle was just so active.
Yeah.
So I think I was just in this like place to kind of like churn this book out. And I had these, pressure deadlines. And I had, like I said, the privilege of not being a caregiver on a whim. Like, you carve out these like windows of, childcare where you're like, okay, the little ones with the nanny from 9 to 12, the big ones at kindergarten, like whatever, or the little ones napping for an hour and a half. And so, okay, go. And I can't do it. Like, I can check emails during that time. I can outline. I can do non-creative things. I can plan lessons. I can read. But I really struggle to just be like, okay, I'm going to sit down and just like type 500 words during that time. If I do force it, I don't like what comes out. Like, I don't like the butt in chair method of like, you just have to sit down and get it done. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Like, just write something. That doesn't work for me. I'm like a real like consumer while I'm writing. Like, I have to have the right, like I will have different literary magazines open, and I'll read a little bit of poetry. I'll like read a short story. I'll like listen to a New Yorker short story or something. I find all that very motivating and inspiring. So I need to go for walks. I need to go to the museum. I need to go to galleries. Like, I need to be doing all that while writing. I'll have like 30 tabs open at a time with like weird articles that I've found. So I find all that very generative. And it's just hard to do that when you don't have whole days or whole weeks to yourself.
Yeah. Or a whole brain.
Or a whole brain, when you're running on just like, so little sleep, and like, yeah, you kids wake up so goddamn early, and the 2-year-old's like teething and he's waking up in the night, and I'm just like, that's good.
It's really, 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 really hard. But I have to say, when you're talking about poetry, that now makes so much sense. And listening to the types of stories that you do, because it is so, so beautiful, like just on a line level, like the actual sentences themselves are quite, I know you're not supposed to call literature lyrical, but it is.
No.
And also, though, I do want to say, because it is literary and it is based on Greek or Roman mythology, Greek. But you don't have to actually be it's so accessible. It is set in Barbados. It is beautiful. It is like an escape. It's so it doesn't actually, like, it's very, very easy to jump into, even if you haven't read the Odyssey since 2002.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a scholar of Greek literature. I just stumbled into a little story that I thought was interesting and like was inspired by. I'm not probably ever going to write anything inspired by Greek mythology again. Like it's not, that's not my area of expertise by any means. I basically forced myself to read the rest of the Odyssey so that just in case any dudes in an audience call me out on anything, I'm like, okay.
It was very funny. Okay, so what I'm curious about when you're talking about how you would write a ton of different things, do you do anything creative outside of writing? Like, are you secretly a painter? Are you also in a band? Like, what is your creative outlet from your creative job?
Yeah. So no, I wish I was. We've talked about my ongoing hatred of craft and how difficult it is to be a mother of young children when you hate crafts. There's so much crafting. I hate it so much.
Yes. Why do you hate crafting so much?
I think I don't know. I don't know what it is. You know what?
Like even with wine and friends, like I have invited you to join us for like different workshops, and you were like, absolutely not. I will go to a nightclub with you at 4:45 in the afternoon for an old person's dance party, but I will not show up for wine, paint between the wines or whatever.
Okay,
workshop it is.
You know what it is? I don't know exactly. I don't know why, but I find like I can do like a paint by numbers, or like if there's clear instructions that like result in something at the end, I'm okay with that. Or like making a card for someone for their birthday because there's like a goal, there's like an output from it.
Okay.
But crafting just for the sake of crafting, like someone just puts a bunch of like materials in front of me and it's like, just play and have fun. My brain just kind of goes, what? There's something about it. And this is going to get a little bit esoteric, but something that I teach my fiction students when we're talking about process is I use this framework that is actually hilariously from Greek philosophy. I'm like making myself sound like such a scholar. I'm not, but I stumbled across this Aristotelian philosophy. Aristotle basically divides all human activities into 3 separate categories. They are, I'm going to like make myself look dumb if I don't remember, but they're theoria, praxis, and poiesis. So theoria is basically like the pursuit of knowledge. So it's reading, it's investigating, it's research, it's learning new information, basically the pursuit of kind of like light and, enlightenment, essentially. Poiesis is making. So the taking action in order to produce something. So writing a book, writing a poem, painting a picture, like you've set down with the goal of creating something by the end of it. That's poiesis. And praxis, which is kind of in the middle, is action for the sake of action. So it's when you do something purely for the love and joy of doing it. So I always use the example with my students of like, let's say you go for a run, are you going for the run because let's say you have a specific marathon time that you're trying to get or something? That might be more in the poiesis end of things. But do you just go for a run every day because you love running and the act of doing it kind of brings you joy? And so how I use that framework with my students is I tell them, incorporate this into your creative process. So think about what ways do you practice theoria as a writer? What ways do you have praxis as a writer? And what ways do you engage in poiesis? So theoria might look like reading well and widely, right? Or it might look like research for, a specific topic. And then praxis might be something just like keeping a journal every day, right? Like you're not doing it for the aim of actually producing something, but you're just kind of like, you're writing for writing's sake. Keeping doing a blog. And then for other artists, it might be, just painting, like, or free writing, right? Setting a timer and writing whatever down. It doesn't
morning pages or something.
Morning pages, exactly. And then poiesis is what we tend to generally think of when we think of writing. We think of the poiesis. So we tend to only focus all of our energy onto this poiesis side of things. And if we're not doing that, we say, oh, I'm not writing. I'm wasting time. But really, if you're doing the theoria and you're doing the praxis, that is all writing. It's all part of the process. And then I get the students to kind of reflect on what are the things that come most easily for them? What are the things that they enjoy? So there's some students who absolutely love research and can just research all day, every day. And then they have so much information they don't know what to do with. And then they kind of struggle to like, you know, and there's some students who love to do morning pages and keep journals and all of that stuff, but then struggle with the poesis or whatever. I am somebody who, if I have a goal and a deadline and I know I have to create X thing by X date, I'm golden. I really struggle with praxis. I struggle with the get up every day and the do for the sake of doing. And that's across. So I think that's what it is with me. I think the same thing. I don't want to just do. For whatever reason, if it's, I don't know what it is. I have some sort of like, gold star syndrome from.
I was going to say, are you a perfectionist?
Yeah, I'm a perfectionist.
Okay.
And I'm somebody who I excelled in school with little effort, not like Calypso. So
I was wondering, I know. Yes, I know. That's another reason why I'm so mortified for people to read my book is that they will be like, well, this explains who you are. Yes, I was wondering if you were very Calypso. I loved Calypso. She was so interesting to me. Also because of maybe as a young woman, and I really, really loved her.
Yeah. So I think it comes from that. So maybe there's part of me that should kind of force myself to do more of those kinds of activities, to do the crafts or to do the free writes or whatever. But when I tell you the levels of, it just doesn't feel good. Like I feel like I'm blocked. I feel stressed. I feel anxious. I feel like, even I literally took my kid to the library on Saturday. We're doing some like Christmas ornament craft.
And that
stressed out. I was like, oh, can someone help me? The instruction.
So funny because I will say, so I am, as I mentioned, new to fiction. So I've written every other type of writing imaginable except for fiction until this book right now. But I am so comfortable, maybe because I started out with very low expectations for myself and for this particular product, that my goal was to just have it exist. And so I was okay with it being really bad as I was going through it because I knew that I could edit. I think just years of copywriting. And so I'm editing based on what a client might want to see adjusted, or doing lifestyle writing. And so I'm editing a dance review for a newspaper editor who wanted more vivid description of what the dance itself looked like, or whatever the case may be. I always had a lot of faith in my ability to rework something. So a sentence could be, I was totally fine with a bad sentence because I knew that I could I think also that because I was maybe teaching myself how to do fiction and how to go through it. So so now this time, because I'm actually quite thrilled with the end product, it's not the end product yet. It will be edited, obviously, but it is just so much better than I ever, and that's because I collaborated with an editor, Carrie Fry, out of North Carolina, who made it so much better than I ever could have possibly made it on my own. And then even just like my beta readers as they were going through it, everyone added so much to it. And so at that point, I never struggled with what you were struggling with as you're trying now to figure out how to do bad work, basically. But I wonder if now I'm going to face that, because now that I'm like, oh, I can do this, now is when I'm going to be like, oh, but you're not yet doing it again, just like instantly.
Yeah, I think that's true, because I definitely didn't struggle as much with the first one with writing a bad draft. I think because I was on such a time crunch, and because I told myself, like, I just need to get it done so I can graduate from my thesis. It doesn't need to be perfect. So the pressure was not on at all. There was very little chance of publication. Like I didn't even really know for sure that it would get published. Like it was just kind of, hopefully, maybe I can publish it.
Yeah.
But this time I know basically whatever I give my publisher, they'll publish, which is a lovely position to be in.
Yes.
But it's also a lot of pressure because I don't want to write some trash,
Totally.
So that's part of it. I think For me, it's just it's the language and the sentences. I'm okay with the plot being kind of messy. I'm okay with there being big gaps that need filling, but the language needs to have something for me. I need to have the voice. I can't, that's something I can't muscle my way through. Like it's either there when I sit down to write or it's not. And it comes in these kinds of bursts where I can really hear it and see it. And if I don't have that, I'm a struggle. Or like later I can muscle through it. But to start, there needs to be like some sort of energy to kind of like feed into it to keep it started.
Did you, when you were reading it back, were you ever like, were there ever times when you're like, I don't even remember writing that? Like, did you have that experience? Okay.
Totally. Like half the book. I had to reread a segment the other day because I did a reading and I was like, flicking through the book to decide like what excerpt I was going to read from. And I got caught up. I was like, ooh. I genuinely was like, no idea. And that's scary because then when you sit down to do it again, you're like, it feels like, well, how the hell did I do that? I don't even remember how I did that. So how am I supposed to do it again, And it feels like more pressure the second time because of like what you were saying. It's like I did it, so I should be able to do it again, but then I can't yet. And that's
you were in an entirely different position than you were previously. And you also won some major awards for this. You've been reading for other people's awards as well. Like it's really launched a whole new world for you, I think. I mean, I've been knowing you since, but it certainly seems like it's really...
Oh, for sure. If you told like grad student me the life that I have now, 5-ish years later, I'd be thrilled. And I am thrilled. Like I'm making it more or less as a working writer, like getting teaching gigs and freelancey things and contest judgings and things out of it. And, I'm considered like, I think if people think about contemporary Canadian writers, like literary writers, like I think I'm a name that would like, I'm in the ether, which is lovely. But I just like, it's just scary to feel like, oh my God, what if I've just scraped the bottom of the well, like creatively, and there isn't another book in me? I don't believe that, but that's the voice that comes out. But then occasionally I'll churn something out and I'll be like, oh yeah, I still got it. But it's just to do that enough to actually get the words on the page that then add up to. But I think it's just a matter of it's going to take a lot longer this time. Like I'm not in a place in my life where I can bang out a first draft in 6 months. Not unless someone like puts me on a deserted island or something.
Right, back in Barbados, perhaps.
Yeah. Oh my God, I wish.
Did you always know you wanted to be a writer? Like, were you, ever since you were a kid, dreaming of this?
Yes and no. Like, I always wrote when I was a kid. I wrote poems. I wrote little plays. I was like, I wrote stories. I was always kind of known as like the writer of the family. And, that was always my strength in school and things like that. I didn't have like aspirations to be, I don't think I had some idea in my head of being like a published author. Like it wasn't this, thing that I aspired to. Oh my God, I want to be a writer and I want to write books. Yeah, I don't know if it was maybe just because both of my parents were very academic. Like they both have PhDs. And so I think I always kind of just thought, and I did well in school. So I think there was always just the idea that I was going to just continue in school and get advanced degrees and then have like a professional job of some sort. I don't know. I thought maybe at one point I would maybe be like a journalist because I studied like international development studies for my first degrees. It's kind of like international relations-ish, like politics, anthropology, economics, that kind of stuff. And so when I graduated from that program and I was trying to decide what I was going to do next, I was like, well, I could go to like J school and like be a journalist. And, that way I get to incorporate my writing. Or I could be a researcher and write, dissertation, like, write like scholarly articles. And then I get to incorporate my writing that way. Mm-hmm. And then I just had like that crisis that everyone has. And they're like, when they're like 22, where it was just kind of like, what the hell do I want to do with my life? And it was really at that point that I think I realized, oh shit, I actually really don't like academic writing at all. I really don't like writing nonfiction. Like, I don't think I could be a journalist. I don't like being beholden to the truth. like I don't enjoy it. I like making shit up and I want to just do that. And so that was, I think, when I realized like I think I want to be a writer. And so it became quite late.
Interesting.
We moved to Vancouver and I decided I would apply for this MFA program. And I just said, I'll do the MFA. I'll give it a good shot. Like I'll basically like, this will be like my long shot in the dark of like being a writer. And if it doesn't work out, I'll like go to law school or something. Or become a teacher. I'll become like a professional, with a capital P job of like, professional of some sort. And so, yeah, I kind of went into it with very low expectations career-wise. Like I didn't think, I didn't have like any sort of delusions about how easy it was going to be because I knew I had done my research. Like I knew statistically how unlikely it is to kind of publish in the first place and then make a living from, selling books and stuff. But it just kind of kept working out and it just kind of has kept working out. And every kind of day or year that it keeps working out just I feel very lucky,
Yeah.
I think I wrote in my acknowledgements in the novel, like, thank you to my parents for not forcing me to go to law school, because it really did kind of feel like that. Like there was this other life where I would just kind of do what was kind of expected of me and get the, and get the normal job and all that. And I just kind of feel like I've avoided that so far. Which I feel really lucky. But yeah, I don't know why I didn't from the get-go when I was a kid be like, I want to be an author. I think it just wasn't within my frame of reference. Like growing up in the Caribbean, like my parents like were both like academics. Like I said, there was just this, it just wasn't something that was even really in my radar.
Yeah. Interesting. Who are you or what are you reading now? Like what's inspiring you? What are you watching? What are you listening to?
A guilty pleasure are romance novels, and I will read them all day, every day, if left to my own devices. And I cannot allow myself to do that because they don't help me write.
So, okay, that actually is an interesting question. So why wouldn't you write one?
I've tried. I've sat down and tried, and I can't do it. I can't do it. And I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I could write like a literary romance. I could write like an all fours kind of dark, edgy romance. But the earnestness that goes into writing a happily ever after, particularly like a comedy, like a rom-com, they are so hard to write. I have so much respect for like well-written, like rom-com, like contemporary romance novels, especially the ones that pull off the banter and the dialogue. It's just so hard. I just can't do it. I don't know. I tried. I sat down and everything that came out was just, it felt forced. It felt unnatural to me. Like it just wasn't, it's just not in my wheelhouse.
Okay. I wonder if maybe, I don't know, maybe don't.
Maybe one day. And my editor at HarperCollins said that. She was like, you want to write a romance? She's like, those sell. Like, you write us a romance. We'd be happy, Maybe I just haven't had the right idea yet. Or maybe I'm still trying to write like the characters too young and I need to write like a, grown people romance. I mean, I love the idea. I do love the idea of writing a whole novel that's based around a romantic relationship, because my novel centers romantic relationships very much anyway. Like the first one does, and I love writing sex. So I think I'm not that far off, but I don't think it's the project that's in me next. Like, I think I have another literary novel that I want to write. And so, but in order to write another literary novel, I need to be reading literary writing. Like, it's really what goes in is what comes out for me. I'm such a mimic. I'm such like a, so, and yeah, the romance novels, like, I love them. They're so fun, but they don't inspire or motivate me at all. They're an escape.
Right.
They don't feel nourishing. They're not nourishing. They're like they're like red velvet cake. They're like, you can't live on that all day.
Right.
You gotta like eat a salad.
Fair. Who are some of the romance writers that you do love to read?
Well, okay, so I was gonna say, so I do read a lot of romance, but I'm kind of trying to take a break from that right now so that I can kind of like read more literary fiction to kind of like, inspire me and get me writing. But I love Ali Hazelwood, and also I'll read anything that she puts out. And so I read like her latest recently. I I've kind of started dipping my toe into like romantasy. So I've been reading like um the new like book in the Quicksilver series, which is like that. And I was reading, which is called Brimstone. And then I was reading the new Iron Flame, which is like the Emprian series. So anyway, these are just very big hitter, bestsellery stuff.
Yeah.
But I also read quite a lot of like unpublished or recently published work just because that's the way my life is kind of set up. So because I was reading for the Atwood Gibson Fiction Prize from the Writers' Trust, I was reading a lot of new Canadian releases this year, which was great. And obviously the standout was the one that ended up winning the prize, Endling, Maria Riva, which is our next book club pick. I'm so excited to talk about it. And that was great. And then another kind of area that I end up reading a lot is I get asked to blurb books. So I get asked to give endorsements. So I'll often get sent unpublished manuscripts. I say no to 99% of the requests because I just don't have the time. But I recently read a book called My Person by this writer, Taya Mutanji. It's going to be coming out in 2026. I read it in like 3 days. It's amazing. I'm so excited for her. She just got a big like write up in like People magazine. Like this book's going to be huge. And that was like, I was typing in my notes at like all my thoughts and feelings. And it was really one of those books that just like stirred up a lot for me and unlocked a lot of like creative blockages that I was having about my own book. I loved it so much. It's about a friendship breakup. It's a relationship story, but it's like about two women going through this like friendship breakup, and it's phenomenal. So that's like a real standout for me. And then I have another friend, her name is Emma Cleary. She's got a body horror book called Afterbirth that's coming out next year, and she just asked me, she's going to send me a copy of that. That's probably going to be coming in the mail in the next couple of days. So that'll be my next read. And because I have so little free time, so a lot of the time my reading is dictated by these kinds of requests and things, which I'm not complaining because, I get to read like really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't really get to just kind of pick my way. Like I picked up from the library a book off the international booker list the other day because I was just browsing the booker list and I was like, oh, what sounds interesting? And I requested it on the library and I haven't even been able to crack it. It's been sitting on my dresser for a week.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, because I don't have a lot of time.
You're thick of it. And what are you watching? Do you watch?
Oh my God. Okay. So I've been wanting to ask the book club group chat if any of the other romance girlies are watching. Have you heard of Heated Rivalry?
No, I have not.
Oh my God. I need to talk about this show with someone. So this is my talk about guilty pleasures. Oh my God. It's a show on Crave. It's a Canadian show, but it's been picked up by HBO Max and it's everywhere. You're gonna like hear about it. Like it's everywhere on social media right now. It's like it's the new Summer I Turned Pretty. Like everyone's talking about it. It's like a gay hockey romance. So it's these two like hockey boys and they're like on opposite teams and they like basically like hook up every time they're like at a tournament, and it follows their relationship over like 8 years. But it's shot by a Canadian director, Jacob Tierney, and he shoots it like it's shot mostly in Montreal, and it's beautiful. Like cinematography wise, the sex scenes are so, talk about like good sex. Like they're like uncut. There's no cutting. So they show all the awkward, weird moments and they're really explicit, but they're really beautifully done. And so he shoots it almost like a Montreal indie art film.
Oh my God.
But it's on Crave. So it's, it's bigger, it's kind of bigger budget. But he also really leans into the kind of the cheesy earnestness that romance readers love. Like like as a director, he's not like, you can tell I've been dying to talk about the film. I literally texted one of my friends yesterday. I was like, we watch Heated Rivalry so we can talk about it. Well, just because like we like romance readers, like I feel like the adaptations don't generally do justice, but just the ones that I read are often very smutty. So you often will get like adaptations that sanitize all of that and like take out a lot of the
Fancy black.
Or Yeah, exactly. Or they try to make it like more dark and like it's almost like an ironic approach where they're kind of like, we know this is, but like the actors and the director don't do that with this book. They approach this love story very earnestly, which I really appreciate too, but it's like beautifully shot. The actors are great. They're just like a complete unknown Canadian actors, but they have amazing chemistry. So anyway, I'm loving that. And I'm telling you, you're going to like hear about this. It's going to like enter your ether next week. And you're going to be like, oh, that's the show that Jasmine was talking about, because everyone's talking about it. It's wild. But yeah, that's my little indulgence right now. I'm waiting for the next episode to come out next week. Honestly, if I was going to start a Substack, it would be like a literary analysis about the romance shit. I just like, because I have so I'm reading these books and I'm very aware as I'm reading them, as somebody who reads and writes literary fiction, like I can critique them on that level, but I'm also like such a sucker for the story. So I just feel I have this really strong connection to the genre and I love talking about it and thinking about it. And I feel like they're not really given the kind of like attention by critics as like literary fiction is. So I love to analyze them and stuff. And yeah, this book and this adaptation are just like have so many thoughts. So many thoughts. This also sounds so hot. It's hot.
Yeah, sounds like it. Anyway. That can be your very first Substack after you have finished subscribing to mine. Can I ask though, so is there any piece of advice that you either remember getting or that you often give to people who are starting out on their creative, whether they're writers or wreath makers or whatever the case may be? Like, is there some nugget, like you were talking about saying yes?
This is the advice that I give that I have a hard time taking myself is that, you know, like you can't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Like you have to just like get things done. But not only that, it's also knowing that like, if you write something and you look back at it, like let's say, you know, it's one thing if you write something and you think, oh, that's not great. Like, that's not my best. Like, I can come back to that. I can make that better. That's different. But if you write something and you know that, you know, you're proud of it, but then you turn around and you read something else, like you read, you know, a prize-winning novel and you think, oh God, like I could never do that. Like I can never write that kind of book. Like that's okay because you know, you literally can only do what you can do. Like you have to just kind of work within your capacity and your own limitation. And the fact that you created something in your own voice that literally did not exist before, like you have like brought this thing into like existence that wasn't there. You're the only person on the earth that can write it in this way at this time and tell this particular story. That's like enough. And it's so wonderful and special. And most of the time, people who say, oh, I would love to write a book, or I've always wanted to write a book, don't do it, not because of some sort of obstacle like, oh, they didn't get the book deal. They just actually don't write the book, you know? And so if you actually manage to write the book or write the story or write the poem, that in itself is like a win and it's a huge success. And what happens after that with reviews and sales and book deals or whatever is so beyond the realm of your control. So just like focus on the work, focus on the creative output, nourish yourself as best you can with that theory side of things, right? Read things that inspire you, go to museums, take walks, hang out with your friends, do whatever you need to do to kind of like nourish your creative source. And then do your best. And then that's enough, basically. You know, that's what I'm trying to tell myself again and again. But
I know
it's hard to remember.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that so much. That is actually the perfect advice for me right now at this moment in my life. So thank you, Jasmine. This has just like far exceeded every open thing. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. I will see you at our next craft night.
Oh my gosh. Maybe I should just force myself to come.
I wanted to say a huge thank you to Jasmine Sealy. I highly recommend you pick up her book, The Island of Forgetting, and learn more about her at jasminesealy.com. For more of The Waited, subscribe to my Substack at kelseydundon.com. Thanks for listening. Can't wait to do this again. For more of The Weighted, subscribe to my Substack at kelseydundon.substack.com. Thanks for listening. Can't wait to do this again.